Hey guys, NHL Insane here, and this is going to be a bit different video than usual. I'm going to be doing a full season simulation. I'll keep all the default settings except injuries off, only because that way no big name players will be injured, so like Crosby won't get injured and Pittsburgh Penguin won't make the playoffs or anything like that, just to keep it as realistic as possible based on no injuries. So I'll just pick the Leafs. It shouldn't really affect anything though. So let's see how close this is to the actual NHL 2015 season simulation. I'm not going to change any of the rosters or anything, but I'm pretty sure they're very similar to the real NHL rosters. So I'll just leave them how they are. And also, I forgot to mention, I will be checking the stats or whatever after every 2 months, and also the All-Star break, the start of the playoffs, and then, of course, after the playoffs. So 2 months into the season, the Chicago Blackhawks are in first, and you can see all the other teams here. Toronto, surprisingly, is doing very good. If only they were this good in real life. And Arizona's also surprising. Florida, 11th place, 12-5-4. New Jersey's doing pretty good. Buffalo's 20th, that's pretty good. Oh wow, Pittsburgh's 23rd, Montreal's 22nd, Detroit's 21st. And Anaheim's 26th. And then Boston's 29. 8-15-1. Maybe they just got off to a slow start or something, but they're not doing too good. As far as points go, 2 months in the season, everything's pretty realistic. Stamkos, 18 goals, 24 games. Pavelski's doing good. Kane. Crosby's up there. Wow, Stafford, he's doing good. I guess that's why Buffalo's doing so good. And then Shea Weber, 26 points in 23 games. That's good for a defenseman. Duncan Keith also, 25 points, 24 games. Sean Monahan's also doing good. Andre Palat. So now I'll do just 2 months more simulation to see what it's like. So now 4 months into the season, Chicago's still in first. Everything's fairly similar. I think the Flyers moved up a lot. The Leafs did drop a lot, which seems more realistic. And then yeah, Detroit climbed a bit. And then wow, St. Louis not doing too good. And Boston's now in last place. So let's see if they'll pick it up later in the season. And as for points, Crosby 50 points in 37 games. That's pretty good. Stamkos, Giroux, Pavelski. Everything's fairly similar. Monahan jumped a bit up. Over a point per game player. That's pretty good for him. Stafford's still doing good. Marlowe dropped a bit. Weber's still point per game player, which is good for a defenseman. Same with Keith. Yager's doing good as well. That's surprising. I guess that's one of the reasons why New Jersey's doing so good. And then Lupul, high score on the Leafs. So now I'll do 2 months more simulation. Let's see if it might make it up to All-Star break. Yeah, so I'll simulate to the All-Star game. So in the All-Star game, Stamkos, Crosby, Tavares first line for Team Red. St. Louis, he's doing pretty good, I guess, this year. Second line for Team Red. Lupul, third line, Bergeron, Stahl. Jokinen, Hartnell, and Stafford, that's pretty surprising. And on defense, Carlson, Subban, Hedman, Green, and Andy Green, Mark Streit. And then in goal for Team Red is Lundqvist, and then Chad Johnson. Surprising. I would thought Rask, but I guess Chad Johnson's having a good year. On blue is Parise, Duchesne, Perry, Sedin, Backus, Kane, Marlowe, Pavelski, Neal, Sharp, Little, and Monahan. And then Keith, Weber, Ekman, Larson, Doughty, Golgoski, and Schultz. And in net is Quick and Miller, so no surprises there for Team Blue. So now I'll simulate up to the start of March. So now at the trade deadline, let's see who the best teams are. Nashville's first, Chicago second, and then Toronto's also jumped back up again. With Dallas, I think they might have also jumped up, and same with Detroit. New Jersey's still doing pretty good. Florida, 16th. Boston's not last anymore, 22nd. Buffalo's 23rd. Calgary is in last, with Anaheim and Montreal and St. Louis all 4 last teams. That's pretty surprising considering St. Louis, Montreal, and Anaheim are all pretty good teams in real NHL. And as far as point leaders, Crosby's in first with 86 points in 62 games. That's good. And then Tavares, 83 points in 64 games, and then Stamkos, 81 goals in 64 games. And also Crosby and Tavares also have 46 and 47 goals, so I think Crosby would be more of a playmaker, but I guess he also scores a lot in this game. Giroux is also doing good. Giroux and Okposo, that's probably why the Islanders are doing good. So now it's even though a lot of good players are near the top. Weber is still doing good, almost a point per game. And then Ovechkin way down at the bottom. 60 points in 64 games, which isn't that bad, but considering how many people are ahead of him, it's a bit surprising. Oh, and I also forgot to check. I'll show you guys the goalies. So for goals against, Rinne's doing amazing this year. Nicholas Backstrom, Miller, Lundqvist, Lack, that's pretty surprising. And then everyone else pretty predictable. Save percentage, Rinne's also at the top, same leaders. So now I'll let's see. I'll simulate to the beginning of April. Or sorry, March. It's not the beginning of April, with only a few games left. It looks as though the Western Conference is pretty set, unless Edmonton wins their next few games, which probably will be unlikely considering Arizona and Dallas have a pretty big lead. And then in the Eastern Conference, it's a lot closer. A lot of teams with 85 points, just below 80 points, so there's a lot of teams fighting for those last few playoff spots. So now that the season has finished, let's check out the final standings as well as point leaders. So, everyone in the Western Conference, that seems pretty realistic. St. Louis maybe and Anaheim, but other than that, it seems like it's pretty realistic. We made the playoffs. And then in the Eastern Conference, wow, that's a bit more surprising. Philadelphia, Washington, Toronto, New Jersey, and Detroit, who all would be teams fighting for a playoff spot, they all made it. In Boston didn't, as well as Montreal and the Rangers. So for total NHL, Chicago went 58-20-4, which got them first place, 120 points, which is pretty good. And then let's see the power plays and everything. So goals for per game, Chicago had the most. Goals against per game, Vancouver had the least, followed by Nashville, which is mainly part of Pekka Rinne. And then power play percent, Philadelphia's first. And then penalty kill percent, Minnesota. So now let's get to the final player stats. So I'll go through by team first, and then I'll show league leaders. So for Anaheim, Perry and Getzlaf both with pretty good seasons. Not quite as good as 2014, but still decent. Kessler with a bit of a off-season, I guess, not really doing that good. And then for defenseman, Fowler, their highest point getter. Arizona, not too many players with a lot of points. Ekman Larson, 57 points, that's pretty good for him. Same with Yan with 56. And then Boston, Bergeron did good. Krejci, but other than that, no one really performed too well. Not even Krejci, he didn't really do that good. Mainly Bergeron. And then Chara, 37 points. That's not too good for him. Buffalo. Stafford got a lot of points. Molson did alright. But other than that, nothing too spectacular. And Calgary, Monahan did pretty good, but other than that, no one really got over 52 points. For Carolina, Eric Staal got 87 points, Skinner 83, 74, and then other than that, nothing too spectacular. Except for Pitkanen, that's pretty good for him, 50 points. For Chicago, Patrick Kane, almost 100 points, that's a good season for him. Followed by Taves, Sharp, Hossa, and Keith, who all had good seasons. And then Brad Richards also having a pretty decent year, 69 points. Colorado, Duchesne, just under a point per game, that's not too bad, but... And for Colorado, Duchesne just under a point per game player, followed by Laginla, Landskog, and McKinnon. And then other than him and O'Reilly, no one really did too good. And then Columbus, nothing too spectacular. Johansson, 65 points, not a ton for the leading scorer on your team. Dallas, Spezza, Ben, and Sagan all with decent years, but other than that, besides Goligoski, who had a pretty good year as a defenseman, other than that, nothing too spectacular. Zetterberg with 83, Datsuk for 81, other than that, nothing much from Detroit. And then, wow, on Edmonton, Hall, 63 points, that's not too many for him, followed by Schultz, who had a great year, 60 points. And other than that, Nugent Hopkins, nothing too much. Yakupov, Everly, nothing too much from them. On Florida, UC Jokinen, he did good. That's probably why the Florida Panthers did decent in standings. Same with Fleischmann. And then for LA, wow, Kopitar, 75 points. Other than that, nothing too good. Carter with 66 points. Doughty with 60, that's alright for him, but other than that, Gaborik, nothing too good. Then Minnesota, Parise and Vanek and Koivu, slightly ahead of everyone else on their team. They had a bit of depth scoring though. On Montreal, Pacioretty and Subban, but other than that, nothing much from the forwards. Nashville, James Neal and Shea Weber both had good seasons, as well as Craig Smith. And then Yager and Camilleri, Enrique and Zajac all had pretty good years for New Jersey. They did have a lot of depth scoring though, from these guys up. The Islanders, Tavares, Okposo, mainly they're only two players, but they did do really well. They had a good season. From the Rangers, St. Louis, and then next is Nash with 74. Other than that, nothing much. Carlson with 81 in 82 games. That's pretty realistic for him. Other than that, nothing much from their forwards. Philadelphia, Giroux with 90 points. That's decent for him. Voracek, 63. Pittsburgh, Crosby with 111 points. That's good. But Malkin, 68 points. Not a lot. Hornfest with 59, that's okay, and then Letang, 47. San Jose, Thornton with 87, Pavelski, 84, Marlowe, 84. Other than that, it just drops off quickly. And then St. Louis, nothing much from them. David Backes with a very disappointing season, as well as everyone else on their team. And Stamkos, 105 points. That's a pretty good season from him. Other than that, it drops off pretty quickly. And then Kessel with only 71 points. JVR 71 points, which isn't a lot, but they did have a lot of depth, it looks like. Points from a lot of different players. Vancouver, the Sedins didn't do too good, but they're not rated too hot. The Sedins didn't do too good, but they're not rated too good, so the Sedins didn't do too good, but their overalls aren't all that great, so maybe that's why. And then Washington, Ovechkin 78 points. Not that good of a season from him. He'll probably get more in the real NHL. And then the final team, Winnipeg. Nothing much from them. And Heatley. He doesn't even play for them, but I guess it's the old roster. And then for total NHL, you can just see it here. Most of it seems pretty realistic. Maybe Neil not so good in real life. Other than that, everything seems pretty good. And then goalies. So goals against average. Rene and Backstrom Lundqvist, they all had good seasons. Most wins, Howard. And then Bernier second, which is pretty good for him. Save percentage Rene with 94.11, that's great save percentage from him. 91 overall. So now I will show the playoff bracket and then quickly simulate the first round. So here's the playoff tree. You can see everyone playing on the west and then everyone in the east playing each other. You can see who's playing who. And I will simulate the first round and then I'll check who advanced and who didn't. So the Leafs lost in Game 7. Let's see what happened with the other teams. So San Jose and LA advanced, Chicago and Nashville, Pittsburgh and Washington, and then Tampa Bay and Philadelphia all advanced. Crosby with 10 points in 6 games, one of the main reasons Pittsburgh upset whoever they were playing. And Roman Josi also had a lot of points as a defenseman. So here in the conference finals, there's Chicago and LA, 1 and 2, and then both the 4th teams. So the 7th and 8th teams in the Eastern Conference both advanced. Washington versus Philadelphia. And Gabrick, one of the main reasons LA advanced, 17 points in 13 games after a disappointing regular season. And Steve Mason had a good 2 series for Philadelphia, 1.91 goals against average in 13 games, as well as Corey Crawford. And a decent save percentage as well. So I'll simulate up the next round. So in the finals, it's Chicago against Washington. Let's see who performed well in the last series. So Sharp, as well as Backstrom, he had good, and Ovechkin also had a good series. So now Stanley Cup Finals, 2015 simulation. So there you have it, the Stanley Cup champions, the Chicago Blackhawks. That seems like it could be realistic to be a real NHL season, 2015-2014 season. Let's just check out how they won. So it was 4-1, so not too close of a series. And as far as the awards go, Chicago Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup, as well as the President's Trophy, Clarence S. Campbell Bowl, Prince of Wales Trophy to Washington, Art Ross to Sidney Crosby, Hart Memorial Sidney Crosby, Norris to Erik Karlsson, Lady Byng to Patrick Kane, Calder Memorial, so Evgeny Kuznetsov, there it is, won Rookie of the Year pretty much. Conn Smythe, Patrick Sharp, so he must have had a good playoffs. Vezina, Henrik Lundqvist, nothing surprising there. Ryan Miller William M. Jennings Trophy, Bill Masterson to Johnny Boychuk, Frank J. Selke to Pavel Datsyuk, Ted Lindsay to Sidney Crosby, Maurice Richard to Sidney Crosby, and those are all the awards. So that does it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let's see how realistic this is to the real NHL season. Like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later.